Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me everywhere: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, I don't know, Instagram, all those places at Hawk Blogger. And you found me the last couple of days at Seahawks OTAs. So I will give you a full rundown of everything I saw yesterday at OTAs, including what is, I think, become a little overblown about Sam Darnold, but, I'll give you my update on what I saw there and talk to you about some other things that kind of stood out to me in this practice that were interesting. I've got some practice footage to share with you, and I'll talk to you about some of the things that I saw there. And probably most importantly and most exciting, I got a nice conversation with Charles Cross, the Seahawks left tackle. I will play that full interview for you in just a moment. Before I do all that, make sure you give the show a like and click subscribe. We're over 20,000 subscribers on our way on YouTube. Would love to get you subscribed there. Follow us on Instagram. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I think we're up to 4.8 on Spotify, which is awesome. Would love to get to, let's see, are we at 4.7 yet on Apple Podcasts? I don't know. Let's take a quick look. I haven't looked for a while. But if you haven't given us a review on Apple Podcasts and you're listening, man, please give us a 5-star review. We are still at 4.6. Would love to get that just a little bit higher. And appreciate you guys helping out that way. Also, time's running out. If you're looking for a Father's Day present, the Ekster Pro wallet, use code HAWK over at ekster.com, EKSTR. The link's in the video, the description of the video. This little Ekster wallet is awesome. I love it. It's got this little button. Press it. All your cards come up, and it also has got this special finder card in there where you can find your wallet using Find My iPhone. It's a great gift, 50% off if you use code HAWK. So make sure to get your dad, your granddad a Father's Day gift, and you'll probably be able to help them out when they lose their wallet, because now you'll be able to have that finder card in there. So I don't want to make you wait to see this Charles Cross interview, but I do want to give you a little bit of context. So the way these things work, you give Seahawks PR a list of guys you'd like to talk to. I've wanted to talk to Charles since I saw him this OTA season, because he looks like his body has changed significantly, and I wanted to talk to him about it. Normally, those are a chance to get a little bit deeper with the individual, but Charles had other ideas today. I got him after practice and was set up to do a one-on-one interview, and I am one person. So I don't have a camera person. I don't have any intern helping out there. So I have to set up my tripod, get the framing as best I can. I try to get the player in the frame, and then I figure out roughly where I'll be in the frame. Well, Charles decided he wanted to bring over the whole offensive line that was coming off the field. Now, it wasn't every level of the offensive line. It was the guys that had started with him or played with him a lot of that day. Not exactly, and I'll go through that in a second. But most of them were in frame, but you're going to see at one point I ask a question of Gray Zabel, and it looks like I'm talking to somebody off in outer space because he's not in the frame. Sorry, I couldn't do anything about it. Best I could do, but at least hopefully you could hear his answer, if not see his face. And I have some impressions about what came from this interview, but why should I tell you my impressions before you get a chance to see it for yourself? So without further ado, here is Charles Cross and gang yesterday at Seahawks OTAs. Cross. Come on, everybody in.
Come on, man.
All right, so here with supposed to be Charles Cross, but Charles said, no, man, we're bringing in the whole crew. How's it going, man? Back in action here in Seattle.
Man, it's been going good. Got the guys with me, every day coming in, putting in work and working to get better.
Now, I don't know if my eyes are right. Have you gotten a little bigger since last time we saw you?
Yeah, I put on some weight. Probably like 15 pounds of muscle this off season. Just continue to get stronger and better, each day.
Why was that a goal for you? Why is that something you wanted to do?
Just to focus on my body, take care of my body, just do things the right way.
So you brought this crew together over here. Why'd you want to do this as a group?
Because man, it's not just about me. It's about the team, and it's bigger than us.
So you got some fresh face here, a rook. How's it going with the rook over here so far?
Man, Gray's gonna be great, man. You know, he's a smart guy. He plays great ball. He's very athletic. He's gonna put in a lot of work and be great for us.
Yeah. Well, you guys are like one of the youngest offensive line crews, and this group right here is really young. Like, you're coming in together. Do you enjoy that part of it, like coming in as young guns and not just all the old vets?
I mean, yes, it's a little different, man. You know, being young bring a lot of energy, a lot of fun to the game, and we just embrace it.
So you're not the only one that looks like you put in some work in the weight room. I know Tawa, Christian, everyone, Mike. Like, how about your off seasons?
I mean, we all been working, bro. We trying to go all the way this year, so everybody's trying to take a next step forward.
How about you, Christian?
We've been working, man. Just stacking iron, sharpening that iron every day.
All right, Mike, man, good to see you again. So you came in out of Findlay. Yeah. You got reps last year, big start down there in Atlanta. Like, what did you want to see happen your second year?
Just keep improving. That's all I want to do, just keep improving. I mean, last year was a stepping stone, just build off of that.
All right, so you guys got new offensive line coach, John Benton. Sounds like a pirate to me out there, like barking his orders. He seems like a really good dude. What are initial impressions of new offensive line coach?
I feel like he's a great coach. You know, he's coached a lot of ball, has a lot of experience, and I feel like he's gonna lead us in the right direction.
Now, Gray, I know you've had a bunch of different coaches. You also standing next to your college roommate at times on the field. How's your first 2 weeks of OTAs going?
It's going really good. Just trying to learn as much as I can from the guys in the room. I mean, a lot of really good football players, a lot of guys that know a lot of ball, and then having unbelievable coaches in that room as well. So just trying to soak up as much as I can.
All right. Well, I know you guys got to get in, get your recovery going. Not everybody thinks the Seahawks are going to be that good this year. I don't know if you guys have been hearing that. And they talk a lot about the offensive line. How much do you guys take pride on and just setting a new tone for what it means to be a Seahawks offensive line?
I mean, man, we control what we can control. Block out the outside noise and focus and continue to get better day after day.
You feel like this new scheme, outside zone, running off the ball, being really physical, a lot more runs this year. You guys passed a ton last year. Are you looking forward to maybe being a little bit more physical on offense?
Yeah, I'm excited about the scheme. Just being able to run off the ball and get the run game going, set up the pass game, and just continue to dominate play after play, game after game, take one game at a time.
All right. Well, boys, I appreciate it. Good luck to all of you, and we'll talk again. All right. It's Brian Nemhauser with Hawk Blogger Mornings talking to your Seahawks offensive line. Take care. That's pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I wasn't probably my best interview performance in that I had a lot of questions. I was going to kind of go for Charles and then kind of got to think on your feet. But those guys, differently than other groups. I mean, I think the offensive line has a collective identity. And one of the things I talked about last year with that room is even when they had some veterans like Laken Tomlinson, like Connor, for at least a period of time, it was a very subdued kind of personalities in a group of personalities in that room. And, I often kind of wondered who's going to be the leader in there and who's going to be the person that really pulls them together. And I saw toward the end of last season, I mean, I talked to Charles about that. And I saw toward the end of the season, pregame, him like really trying to hype up his group and really kind of coming out of his shell a little bit. And that's pretty cool. Like, I think there's some intent there. He's trying to be something that I think is not natural for him. And I think that's really, I respect that a lot. And then for him in this situation, as I'm grabbing him coming off the field and he turns around, he's like, no, I want all my guys with me. And the fact that he even talked about them as my guys when he was bringing them over and wanted to do it together, I think says something about kind of his perspective on where he fits in this hierarchy in the locker room and in that group in particular. And I think that's important. If he feels a responsibility to be a leader, it's also going to affect his kind of approach on the field and feeling like he's got to set a tone and set a standard. And I think there's only good things that come from that. So I thought that was really cool. It was great to talk to Tawa, and, he's like, hey, we're trying to go all the way. I liked that. I liked, seeing Christian and Mike Jarrell, and you notice Jarrell was, he's a second-year guy, and he's also soft-spoken, and Charles pulled him from the back and pushed him to the front to make sure he was getting some airtime. I liked all that. I think that I am one of the voices, and hopefully, you'll remember this one way or another. Either it'll look really good or it'll look really bad come the season. But I think I'm one of the few voices that's been optimistic about what the Seahawks offensive line can be. I think that there is a chance that that group is going to take a significant step forward this year. I think that not only the scheme change, not only the emphasis on running the ball more, not only, the guys in their second, third year in some cases, not only did they add a first round pick who I think is very, very good, but this is a group that feels like it is coming together and growing together. And I feel like all things are pointing in good directions for that group. Now, we'll see. There's a lot of time between now and then. There's a lot of ball to be played. There's a lot of competition to be had, but I like what I see there. I like the coaching. I like the fit. I like the players. And I'll play some sound from Abe Lucas a little bit later. The reason he wasn't in this is because he was, getting ready to do a press conference. So, he wasn't going to do two interviews, but you'll hear from him as well about what he's got in mind there. And I'm optimistic. I am optimistic about what's to come for that offensive line and that position group. So good stuff there. And I think I saw there was a question somewhere in here about whether the Seahawks had canceled a second set of OTAs. That's actually not accurate. So what happened was something they've done before. They moved up mini camps, which is mandatory, a week. And that's going to be next week. And that means that the second group of OTA practices will happen the following week. And what they'll do is they'll let the veterans go. So the veterans get an extra week of summer and break, which is cool. But the young players will be here for that second set of OTAs. Now, I don't know that the press is going to be going to the OTAs. We will be at the mini camp next week. So we'll kind of cover that as it comes, but no, they did not cancel it. And I had talked, actually, I knew this was coming because I had talked to some folks in the Seahawks staff a while ago and about when they get to take their vacation. And unfortunately, they don't get to leave until everybody leaves. So even though they moved OTAs up and the veterans get to leave, the players, the staff in the building generally sticks around. So, by the way, bonus points for anybody who could guess the YouTube thumbnail that I built, what it was meant to mimic. So here, I'll share my screen so you guys could see this. So this thumbnail was something I have a little fun with the thumbnails. It's funny. I've heard people am I using AI to do these, or who's the person designing them? That's me. It's just me. But you can see here, this was for the oldies in the group, an old Kool and the Gang album cover. And, when Charles Cross, brought his gang over with him, that was the first thing that came to mind. Not necessarily this album cover, but I looked up Kool and the Gang and I liked this one. So redesigned it. So if you're wondering why why they've got the fresh and that in the thumbnail. That was why. That was why. So I could go a few different directions. I can talk about practice, but I think actually it might make sense to listen to a little sound from Abe Lucas. And I don't have uh, the exact time code, so I'm going to scroll around a little bit. Um, but there was one thing in particular that I think really stood out. Yeah. Hold on, let me find the right spot, and then I'll. All right. I asked him in this question here, um, how good he thinks the offensive line can be this year. And here's what Abe said.
Oh, like however good we want to be. I mean, we have the right coaching, the right tools. The identity has definitely changed from last year to this year. So, I mean, it's on us as far as we want to take it.
How's the identity change?
I mean, we're just more so. When you get a new staff in, like, I mean, everybody wants to run the ball, but when it kind of you come in and it's kind of a non-negotiable, like, we're running the ball. I mean, we put a fullback in the backfield, like we're changing it up. We're doing things differently. It's like an old school mentality with a new school principle sort of thing. So, yeah, definitely just looking forward to getting after that.
Do you think that might be the biggest difference for you guys with the run game compared to the last couple of years? Is maybe just general commitment to it rather than, well, it's something that you just have some balance on?
I would just say, or I guess I'll put it like this: like, we're trying to be elite at very few things, but those few things are, what the offense is going to be based around, and that's the run game. We're going to be elite at the run game. Like, that's the philosophy with it. So, I mean, it's not some, hodgepodge of just a bunch of different stuff we're just throwing in, you know what I mean? We're going to be elite at the basics and make sure that they work so we can do it against anybody.
That was, music to my ears. Hopefully it was to yours as well. Whether or not you are a big fan of being elite at the run game or being physical or not, I happen to be. But the fact that the plan and the vision and the identity offense is already that clear this early for the players, that's really good. And I personally am a big fan of the notion of let's be elite at a few things as opposed to trying to have a really broad playbook that we can do all these other things, but maybe we don't do them that well. And I became a believer in that approach for a lot of reasons, but the 2005 season was a great example of that with the Seahawks, where yes, you had Steve Hutchinson and Walter Jones on one side of the line, and they're both Hall of Fame players and great. And you had an MVP in the backfield and Sean Alexander, great. But that team, it wasn't like a team that had a million plays. I knew in the stands, I'm like, okay, here comes the boot off of the stretch to the outside, and going to hit Joe Juravicius for, 15 yards or whatever it is. Or here come the tight ends. Here comes Jeremy Stevens, whatever. They were very good at what they did. And it didn't matter that other teams knew what was coming. They just did it really well. The other example of that is the LOB Seahawks, the 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Everyone talks about how they knew what the defense was. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't hard to figure out what the Seahawks coverage was going to be on any given play. But they had players that were elite at running that and elite at executing those plays and those coverages and that scheme. And that made them one of the best defenses in the history of the sport. So I think too often people try to outthink, and what you really need to do is out execute. And yes, ultimately it will matter if you have the right players to be able to win their matchups in order for that to work. But I think it's a great foundation to start with, is to really just be great at a few things. And the fact that it's the run game, I think is huge. I just think this team, in fact, I hadn't planned to do this, but like, I want to look for a second. Like, when's the last time the Seahawks like were good on the ground? Let me take a quick look at this. While I'm doing this, give the show a like and click subscribe if you haven't already. Let me see. It's not a good way for me to look. All right, I'm going to look this up. We're going to go over to my good pal StatHead, and we are going to, I think I've got some of this another place, but we're just going to do it this way. We're going to look for rushing yards, and we are going to look just at the Seahawks. Curious, when do you think the last time is the Seahawks were good on the ground? Give me your memory of when the last time was the Seahawks were good on the ground. So I think the last time the Seahawks were good on the ground looks like 2018. Well, 2019 they weren't bad. They had 2,200 yards that season. That year they were 11-5. They finished second in the NFC West. They won a playoff game. That was the year, one of the few years they've won a playoff game. That's when they went into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles. DK Metcalf had that big game. Then they lost in Green Bay. And, that year, that was the year Chris Carson had 1,200 yards rushing. Rashad Penny had 370. And Russell Wilson still was running. He had 342. So they had like a decent run game. That was 2019. 2018, they had 2,560 yards. That was number one in the NFL in rushing that year. That year they finished 10-6, second in the NFC West. They lost that playoff. That was the painful loss to the Cowboys in Dallas that broke Evan Hill. That was a tough one for him. But they had Chris Carson had 1,100 yards rushing. Mike Davis, if you remember Mike Davis, that's a blast from the past, had 500. Rashad Penny had 400, and Russell Wilson almost had 400 himself. So again, QB assisting on the run. But they had like a very effective running back led run game at that point. It's been a while. Like, I'm looking through 2021, they had 2,000 yards, 2,074 yards rushing. That ranked 11th. So not terrible, but decent at that point. And that was the Rashad Penny, Alex Collins, RIP to Alex Collins, a little bit of Chris Carson, who was injured, some DJ Dallas, a bunch of things kind of sprinkled in there. So it just feels like it's been a while since the run game was something that any opponent had to even think twice about. And I'm personally ready for that to be something that they do have to worry about. And I think the team is as well. All right, I'm going to get to my notes on practice here in just a second before I do a couple super chats. Ryan Eddy, who's been a member for 7 months, says, thanks for the banger interviews and all you do. Well, Ryan, that's nice of you to say, man. I appreciate you. And Ryan also went the extra mile to give away 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. If you want one of these free memberships to the channel, all you got to do is make sure you got gifting turned on your YouTube account, and then just like the show, subscribe to the channel, comment, get involved. The more engaged you are with the channel, the more likely you are to get one of these free memberships. And once you get one of the free memberships, you can upgrade to club level. That gets you access to like the interview I just did with Charles, I showed you with Charles Cross and crew. That was available for club level and higher YouTube members as soon as I had it yesterday evening. So being a club level member is great. It also gets you access to the Discord channel where you can talk with other Seahawks fans all the time. Ryan with one more says, let's go Hawks, and thanks. That interview was epic, man. I'm really glad that fired you up. I certainly enjoyed it. It was fun. We'll see who I get to talk to today. I'm looking forward to it. And, I'll share what I see in practice there as well. All right. So getting to OTAs, So let's start with the headline stuff, at least that got the most discussion out of the first OTA practice. Now, I want to be crystal clear again, and like my footage is up. Like I can't hide from it one way or yeah, I can't pretend it wasn't there. But I was very clear in my first OTA report, all the caveats about this being in a first practice you'd seen, no pads early on, offensive players are going to be behind the defensive players. The defense is playing the same scheme. It's the same players, same coaches. Like there's every reason the defense is going to be ahead, but Sam Darnold had a tough day. That was like, I couldn't do my job and be like, have integrity and tell you, Sam Darnold looked great. He didn't look good on Monday. Okay. So we came back yesterday, watched him yesterday, and he was fine. Like the way I'd put it is, if Sam Darnold had played on Monday the way he played yesterday, nobody would have said anything about it. It would have been like, yeah, he was fine. He made some throws. He had some bad moments, but nothing really stood out one way or another. So that's good news. Now, he didn't look great in this practice. It wasn't like, whoa, man, this guy is outstanding. He had some nice throws. He had some nice plays, threw some touchdowns, threw some balls deep downfield. Like he did well. And I think that's fine. He did have a couple more picks, but these were different than the picks that he threw on Monday. These were deep down the field. These were things that were like tipped balls, and I think he talked about in his press conference yesterday that he's also giving his receivers a little bit of a chance to see what they can do in this setting. And of course he should do that. Like this is the time to learn about what guys he can trust to do certain things and which guys, maybe he shouldn't take that risk on. So, I don't think that there's the thing that I would say that looked meaningfully different to me, and that was the bigger concern was, Mike McDonald made this comment on Brock and Salk of, basically he was implying like, we don't want guys to be tentative. We don't want guys to feel like they can't make mistakes. We want people to go out there and rip it. Well, I think he was kind of referring to all the conversations about the interceptions. That wasn't what bothered me in Monday's practice. Like, yeah, interceptions happen, whatever. It was his feet. It was his pocket presence and his frenetic kind of anxious body language as he was going through progressions. And I didn't love that. And it wasn't confidence building to see that. Well, yesterday it was better. Like his feet were better. They weren't like quiet. I wouldn't say he had quiet feet necessarily, nor that you'd need to, but he wasn't frenetic. He wasn't looking super uncomfortable. Now, I will still say I think Drew Lock's looking very good and playing very well. I will also say that the defense is making it tough on these guys. Like there are not a lot of open receivers, and the bigger story may become, do the Seahawks have a receiver room that can get open and threaten a defense? And, I asked Clint Kubiak a little bit about this, and actually, let me see if I can find that clip. I'm going to, again, I usually get the time codes ahead of time, but I didn't this time. So let me see if I can find this. You guys are going to watch me do this. We'll do this together. All right. But I asked him, I was trying to find out, like, does he try to put the second level of the defense in conflict, and how important is that to do that? And it was toward the end. So I think this might have been it. Let's see if I'm close.
Is it to put second level of defense in conflict, and how much are you trying to accomplish that with your
Yeah, I think if you don't show them that you're going to push the ball down the field, and they'll start squatting on you. So we gotta prove that we can do that, and you gotta earn that right too by running the ball so that they will step up.
So quick answer there. Clint Kubiak's not the most talkative dude, but I think this notion of getting the second level, the linebackers, the safeties that are coming down to have to respect vertically what you're going to do, I think that might end up being one of the biggest questions for the Seahawks offense, because as I watch them, like, JSN is not going to really threaten you deep. Yes, he can get deep, but that's not his biggest part of his game. Cooper Kupp, that's not, certainly not the biggest part of his game at this point in his career. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, that certainly is his strength, and he's the guy that they're going to deep quite a bit in this one. He's going to have to prove that he's a guy that can do that enough that it's going to scare the defense, or at least make the defense respect that part of the offense. Outside of that, you're hoping Torrey Horton can maybe be that guy. And without it, it's going to get very crowded. You know how people talk about, oh, they've got 8 men in the box to try to stop the run, right? You hear that all the time. Or they have an extra man back to help in coverage. That's in deep stuff. One of the things that is going to be an issue for this Seahawks defense is when they have an extra man in the intermediate area, like around. Basically, I think you're going to see a lot of defenses try to stack the box to take away the run, which is going to force the Seahawks to pass. And then you're going to have a lot of guys whose strength is in the intermediate kind of area. And if there's an extra defender and they're playing zone and they're kind of taking away a lot of your windows, that's going to be a challenge for the Seahawks offense. So you're going to have someone who can beat you over the top. This is why, regardless of how anyone here feels about it, the Seahawks did not want to move on from DK Metcalf. He would have been the guy that would have forced, whatever you think of him, he forces defenses to respect him on deep routes. Like, there's no doubt he's one of the more, intimidating deep X receivers in the NFL in that regard. MVS isn't that guy. He's certainly fast, but I don't think people are going to respect him the way that they respect DK Metcalf. So that's just going to be I think a consistent theme, and the Seahawks are going to have to earn their way to kind of forcing the defense out of those coverages, out of those situations, to open up some of the underneath so that they can excel there. So yeah, I thought Sam Darnold was fine, had a fine day. I thought Jalen Milroe had a nice day. He had a lot less reps, man. Like, I think Mike Salk, he was within reason to ask the question he did of Coach McDonald, but he was off when he said that it seemed like all the quarterbacks were getting equal reps. That wasn't the case on Monday, not by my charting. And Mike McDonald said he should check his math. Well, they went even further in the practice yesterday. I think Sam Darnold must have gotten 70% of the reps, and then maybe 20 for Drew Lock and 10 for Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe got a lot fewer reps, and so did Drew Lock. So with the reps he got, though, I thought Jalen Milroe looked good. In fact, I think I've got some footage here I can share with you of him throwing. Yeah, so let me put this up here. I'll share this with you guys, and we'll watch some of this stuff together. So this is quarterback working through some stuff. Sam, they're working on play action and the deep ball here. Basically, we're doing a deep ball and then an intermediate pass and then a shorter pass on this. Sam throws a fine ball. There's nothing there to one way or another. Let me skip ahead to, here's Drew Lock. And then here's Jalen. You know, like, take a look at Jalen and his style. And there's Andrew Sunoco working with him, but one under center, taking his play action. You know, throws a nice deep ball. No doubt about it. And then you see him here going to the intermediate. Throws it on a line. He's got a nice arm. He did well during the practices, and I thought had some nice completions. In fact, let me look at my notes real quick. There were some situations where he's still they'll run some out routes and different timing patterns, and he's a little bit late. I think Darnold is still a little bit late and a little bit off target on some of those timing. Where Jalen Milroe is at his best is hitting the seam. He looks very natural throwing the seam route, or even, you know, kind of slants in that area. That's where he seems like the middle of the field seems like where he's at his best. And then also the deep ball. I was curious about, with Ernest Jones still out, who was going to be lining up next to Tyrese Knight. I didn't notice that on Monday. I wasn't paying attention to that. It was Patrick O'Connell was the linebacker with the starting group next to Tyrese Knight. So that was a little bit of news from my perspective. And let me see if I can find this. There was this point where Ernest Jones came on the field to start warming up, and his teammates got excited. And he was like, hold on, you know, this is here, I'll play this for you guys. He's like, I'm just doing warm-ups, don't get ahead of yourself. But there is Ernest Jones. You'll hear the guys talking. Oh yeah, this man. And then he says, hold on, he's just patting it down. He's like, whoa. I'm just doing some, but obviously Ernest was fine. Everyone was talking about that surgery. But he's in good spirits. And Spoon and Nick and Lori, man, they're having a lot of fun today, and a good crew. There's also a clip I want to play for you guys of Aden Dirty working with the pass rushers and the edge rushers in particular, and this was cool. So let me see if I've got the right clip. No, this might be the only video I've got of it. So he's working on this like stab with the outside arm, and in this you can see DeMarcus Lawrence, number 0, for the first time. And the cool thing was, you know, it was just the 3 guys, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, and DeMarcus Lawrence. And this was DeMarcus wasn't at the first OTA. He was the first OTA that media was at. He's been at the others. He's slimmer than I thought. I thought he was bigger than that. And interestingly, one of the things I noted is that they were playing an alignment. This was on, I think, like a third down kind of pass rush rep where it was, I want to make sure I get this right. So I want to find out where I have it in my notes. It was Boye Mafe and Derek Hall on the outside. And then it was, where is it? I know I wrote this down. It was Boye Mafe and Derek Hall on the outside. And then it was Dexter Lawrence, Byron Murphy, and Jaron Reed as the down lineman, which was interesting to me. Yeah, Lawrence, Murphy, Reed, and then Boye and Hall. So there's an alignment here where they're going to have all 3 of those guys on the field. And that's not how they used Uchenna Nwosu. Uchenna is never going to be a down lineman in any situation. So DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be used a little bit differently than I think some of the other edge guys. And I thought that was interesting. In fact, I think Jared Ivey is playing some of the same role that DeMarcus Lawrence is, and he's doing it at a very different way. You're adding dirty. He's a defensive coordinator, but he's by trade. And you work with them on getting to the point where you really are going up, like getting your leverage up on the guy. First, you have to practice low, and then you back up and kind of the first one, see him go up there and the run, play him off here. So he's basically saying, instead of pushing out, I want you using your legs to like flip. And then he has to walk out. Run up to keep his eyes up there.
Now we go to the other side.
All right, that was the edge rushers. Let me show you some clips of the offensive line. This was earlier on in practice, and them working on these combination blocks. And I loved this because you see in these clips basically what Benton is telling them is the guard in particular. In this case, Gray Zabel. It's Gray Zabel and Olu. Olu's playing center, and Gray Zabel's playing left guard. And he wants the guard to get up on and basically almost chip the first level and then get up to the second level. So he wants the guard to basically help knock this other player off the ball to create even more a bigger hole. And here, Gray kind of knocks him and then moves on to the second level. We work on. Here you got Olu and Anthony Bradford. And you watch Anthony Bradford, and he makes contact. I mean, it's legitimate. He brings a different kind of power to that. And you look at his body, it's not floppy. Not floppy. There's a belly, because, I mean, he's 340 pounds or whatever, but it's not the same. And his legs look to me a little bit see him talking there. Let's watch this rep again. I'll show you what I mean. So watch Bradford. Basically, Bradford just hits his guy and doesn't actually include you're gonna hear Benson talk to those guys about so he's trying to tell him from targeting where to hit, like where he wants to hit and where he wants to target, to hit, and then move on to right. And so just to be a big part of how this line works is these combination blocks and the coordination, how they're going to fire off the ball. You see here they run it again. Watch what happens when I think that's right. Watch that again. Dude, that's fun. You're able to just, I mean, blown off. And, you know, like, of course, that's the point. That's the point. Guys going up the and kind of see the guys kind of Jalen Swindell, who, by the way, Jalen was getting harder snaps. That's the first names, Abe Lucas, Jalen Swindell, McGill, Gray Zabel, and Charles Cross. Like, on a line. That was kind of cool. So Luke with the second line, with Josh Jones on the right, Bradford, Olu, left guard Satawa, left tackle Mike Terrell. Then you've got third string back to Gable Duke, and you guys there as well. But I thought that it's just a good example of the detail that's going on, the learning that's going on with the offensive line, and why having this coaching staff that knows exactly what they want is a really big deal. I had a fun little Riley Mills story. It's not a long one, but this is a guy that has shown like just unbounded enthusiasm for being in the NFL and being a Seahawk and being here, and told you about in the first OTAs where he's just like taking mental reps. He's dying to get in to do the drills with the guys. Well, yesterday he was playing the role of punter. He wasn't actually punting the football, but during special teams practice, he volunteered to, be catching the snaps as the guys were going through and learning their rush on special teams for punt rush. And I just thought that was kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot of guys I've seen who are injured and they're on the sidelines and they're just kind of watching and they're not involved. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it stands out when you've got a guy who's injured and is just dying to be part of it any way, shape, or form. And that is Riley Mills for sure. What else? So I am looking through AJ Barner had a nice day. I think he had at least one touchdown. Jake Bobo, I thought, had a nice day, a few contested catches. There was Jackson Smith and Jigba, for the plays that he was used was fine. I saw the fullbacks getting, one-on-one attention from Kennedy Palomalu. So there's at one point where the running backs are going through position drills, but Kennedy was working with the fullbacks off on a separate part of the practice field. They were doing things like crab walks and some different, block targeting and stuff like that. So it was just Robbie Oots and Brady Russell. It looked to me like Robbie Oots was getting kind of the starter snaps at fullback, but it's a little hard to tell there. I am sure that is a wide open competition at this point. Derek Young had, a couple nice plays. He also seemed to injure himself on one attempt where he dove for the football. So we'll see if he's okay. Haven't heard much about anything from there. The other piece that I'll say, I think this got a little bit more hype than it deserves just because, there's not a lot to talk about when you're watching these OTAs. Mike McDonald at one point stopped practice and, raised his voice saying, this is an OTA. What are we doing here? Like, you guys, if you want to be pros, treated like pros, you got to know how to practice properly. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he definitely said, if you want to be treated like pros. And he was basically getting after them because it was a little too physical. There's too much contact and they just can't have that kind of contact. They could be fined for it. Guys could get hurt. So McDonald stepped up. He also kind of admonished the coaches and said, you guys cannot be telling them to finish. This is not the time to be emphasizing finishing. This is the time to be learning. And so, he was kind of talking to the coaches, the players. He was like, man, like, let's throttle it back a little bit. Let's practice the right way. Which was, interesting. I haven't heard him speak up like that before, but definitely saw that. Who else? I think Josh Jobe had a really nice practice. That's 2 practices in a row. I think he's done pretty well. He broke up a deep pass to MVS. There was a play. I think DeAnthony Bell had a really nice practice. I think he broke up a play deep that was he tipped the ball and Ty Okada picked it off. So, I think DeAnthony Bell had a nice practice. Let's see who else stood out to me. I'm going through my notes. So, let me see, Cooper Kupp had some plays. That's fine. Jamie Sheriff, number 50, playing off-ball linebacker. Just takes a while for me to get used to. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I was curious. I've used to 50 being KJ Wright, so it was just a different person, and that was a little different. But I'll keep an eye on Jamie Sheriff. Obviously, a big fan of his, and hope things work out. They need some linebacker depth for sure. Steven Sims, continues to be a guy just to keep an eye on. He's a returner more than anything else, but gives them something a little different at receiver and has had some nice plays in the first few. So those were kind of my big takeaways from this one. I was hoping to see a little more of Isis Waxter, the cornerback I've been a little bit of hyping from Villanova, the undrafted free agent. He wasn't practicing yesterday, so didn't get a chance to see him. But, it was a good, solid practice. The defense got their wins. The offense got some wins. It was more even, I would say, in this practice than the others. And it was a little bit cleaner than the first OTA that I observed. So good stuff. I think it was good stuff all around. And I'm looking forward to seeing them today and seeing what that looks like. I think I'm going to bike today, man. The construction around there is crazy. So I'm going to get on the bike and head down there. Going to try to do an interview with good pal Brady Henderson, which I will be aired for Hawk Blogger Mornings tomorrow. But yeah, it was a good first day, or good second day, and good stuff going on there. All right. Again, if you have not given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. If you have not clicked the bell to get notified, you should do that. Let me see if there's any other practice footage that I think is worth playing for you all. There's been a bunch, but I kind of posted all of this, and I think I wasn't supposed to post so much footage. So I won't be posting that much footage in the future, but I will be. I will share when I've got some. Let's see. Any of this other stuff? I don't think any of this other stuff is really that great. So if you're a club level or higher member, you can watch all this practice footage on your own time. But that'll do it for the practice footage I'm going to show today. I think those probably all the things Sam Darnold spoke yesterday. I might share some clips from that another day. Nothing too groundbreaking. And good to know that he's a 10 handicap golfer, because that means he and I could play together and probably fit all right. And then otherwise, folks, make sure you tune in. If I have a chance to do a post-practice report today, I will. There's been a lot of stuff going on in my household, so I've been trying to juggle a bunch of stuff. Can't always do it, but we'll try to do it if I can. All right, everybody, that is it for today's episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.